The Disobedient Girl. This is a Nigerian folktale. Please do not listen to this when you are driving or doing any activity that requires visual attention. I hope you consider liking and subscribing. Now on to the folktale. Do you have a child who never listens? Or are you the child who never listens? Either ways, this folktale is for you. A man named Effiong lived in Kobam, a town in Nigeria. He had a beautiful daughter called Affiong. Affiong's beauty was so unique that all the men in the country wanted to marry her. But she was very vain and turned them all down despite the advice her parents gave her. She had her mind set on marrying only the finest of all men, a man who was best looking, rich, and stronger than all. Her parents presented her with potential husbands, but they were either too old and ugly or just too poor. Now, a scholar who lived in the spirit land also heard of Affiong's beauty, and he thought, if this girl is as beautiful as they say she is, I would like to possess her. The scholar knew that his true appearance would frighten the girl, so he paid each of his friends in the spirit land a visit and borrowed the best parts of their bodies. From one, he got a handsome head, and from another, he got a fine body. The others lent him strong arms, fine pair of legs, and a beautiful attire. The skull finally looked like the perfect man Affiong had been vainly searching for. He left his home and began his journey to Kobam market. It was there that he saw Affiong. She was a very beautiful young woman. Around this time, Affiong had also noticed the skull in all of his superficial fine glory and immediately fell in love with him. They introduced themselves and Affiong immediately invited him to her home. When they got there, she presented the skull to her parents as the man she wanted to marry and sought for their consent. Her parents were initially skeptical about the stranger, but Affiong's persistence dwindled their doubts, so they consented. They soon got married and lived in Affiong's home for 2 days. Then they decided to leave for the skull's home in accordance to tradition. Affiong's parents tried so hard to dissuade her from leaving with him, but she was very stubborn. She ignored the warnings and followed her husband on the journey to his home. After several days were spent on the journey, they finally crossed the bridge between the human world and the spirit world, and as soon as their feet touched the ground, the first lender came to the skull and demanded for his head. Then the second demanded for his body, and so it went until the skull stood before Affiong in his true appearance. It was no surprise that Affiong was extremely frightened. All the love she had for the skull had disappeared, and she immediately wanted to return home, but the skull would not let her go. They arrived at his home, where his mother had been waiting for his return. She was very old and incapable of doing much, so Affiong made up her mind to assist the old woman in any way she could. She spent her days cooking for her, washing for her, and fetching water and firewood for the old woman. The skull's mother saw how much effort the girl was making and she was grateful. She soon became fond of Affiong. One day, the old woman expressed her dislike for Affiong's unfortunate predicament. She then told Affiong that all the creatures in the spirit land were cannibals, and that if they heard of Affiong's presence, they would kill and eat her. The skull's mother hid Affiong and promised to send her back home on the condition that she would always obey her parents. Affiong readily agreed to this. Then the old woman gifted her with anklets and other treasures on account of her kindness. She then made a juju and summoned the winds to convey Affiong back home. At first, a violent tornado came with thunder, lightning, and rain. But the old woman sent it away. The next wind that came was a gentle breeze, and the old woman was very happy with it. She instructed the breeze to carry Afyong home, and after a short farewell, the breeze carried the young woman gently to her home. When her parents saw her, they were overwhelmed with joy, as they had given up hope of ever seeing their daughter again. Her father laid soft animal skins on the ground where Afyong walked, so her feet would not be soiled. Afyong walked into the house with her parents and told them all that had happened. Realizing how close they were to losing their daughter, they threw a huge feast and invited everyone in the town. When the rejoicing ended, her father informed the head chief of his daughter's story, and the head chief passed the law that parents should never allow their children to marry strangers who come from far-away countries. Then Afyong's father advised his daughter to marry the son of his good friend, and guess what? Yes, Afyong readily agreed, and she lived with him for many years and was very happy. The Disobedient Girl. What are your opinions and lessons gathered from this tale? If you like this folktale, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing. Thanks for listening.